These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
I don't know. I'd have to let Kirk answer that, but I can tell you that his teammates were very, very excited when he received the final game ball in the locker room and broke us down. You can just feel what this guy means to his teammates, this organization, and as a first-year coach here, to have him as our quarterback, I feel very confident and feel lucky to have Kirk as our guy because he's playing at a really high level and overcoming some circumstances that, quite honestly, we're learning a lot about him, and I feel great about where he's at right now.
You like that? You like that?
Yes, we did have a "you like that" moment in the locker room, and we will have that in our archives going forward. But old Kirky boy got his revenge after 5 years on the team that refused to give him. Don't mess with a man's money. Don't bleep around. You're going to find out. That's what happened to the Commanders yesterday, boys.
I think the Commanders are probably dealing with far more problems than the memory of Kirk since Daniel Snyder pretty much is going to be forced to sell because he is a, how can I put this nicely, scumbag of a human being.
Yes. Good. Get him out of here. I'm sure there's some other owners that are scumbags too, but he's the scummiest of them all.
All scumbags.
This is Mackey and Judd, daily Minnesota sports, entertainment, therapy, speculation. And if you want the full breakdown, excuse me, from right after that game ended, there's an hour and a half episode of Vikings Vent Line from first round inside Mall of America with a raucous, I would say, crowd that was no longer thirsty after that game was over, having drank so many surly products. It was a good time had by all.
Smart people is what I saw. Very smart
Yes.
people. They were parched.
It was awesome. It was awesome meeting so many people. So that was that was amazing. And you can find all kinds of Vikings content on the Purple Daily feed. But we've got statements here on this Monday. We'll start with. Can I start actually?
Sure.
Because we
Wait,
did a little break.
Hold on. I'm getting. Okay, yeah, you can.
Okay.
I was just listening in for the signals. Yeah.
Play call. Okay.
Yep, you can start.
So there's so many things to get into. We got into this a little bit at the end of Purple Daily. My first statement is Kevin O'Connell's end game strategy was brilliant yesterday. So I pulled up the game log here just to kind of verify like what exactly was the situation. So the Commanders the game is tied. The Commanders had one timeout left. And this was so the 2-minute warning happens, and now it is a third down. Let me see here. Actually, we had that whole situation where the Greg Joseph field goal was nullified. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a field goal that was good that would have put the Vikings ahead, and then you had a penalty on Washington for unnecessary roughness. You can't mess with the center on, a field goal or an extra point. And so now it's a minute 52. It's first and goal at the 2. Washington has one timeout. So that I forgot about that whole penalty situation because that was a big deal. And now you have two options. You can just punch the ball in. You can score a touchdown and go up, let's say, 24-7 if you miss the extra point. Washington, or maybe you do it after maybe you make them call their final timeout by just taking a knee or running Dalvin into the line of scrimmage. Now they call timeout with a minute 48, and now your decision is, do you score a touchdown, which they'll let you because they want the ball back, or do you do what Kevin O'Connell did, which is bleed the clock all the way down to like 15 seconds or 12 seconds or whatever it was, kick a field goal, and then kick off through the back of the end zone. So now they are down by 3, but there's only 12 seconds left and no timeouts starting at the 25-yard line. I know people, because we heard from a lot of fans inside that bar that were like, what the hell are they doing? Why is Dalvin Cook just laying down? Score a touchdown. Trust your defense. I trust my defense more with 12 seconds to not give up a field goal from 75 yards away from the goal line, no timeouts, than I do with a minute 50 and time to operate or penalties or any number of chaotic things that could happen. So I just thought a lot of people were kind of scratching their heads. What is he doing? I'm not sure about this. It was freaking genius for my money anyways. Love it.
I agree completely, and it was a play where I think part of our problem is this. We're not used to coaches doing things like that because it seems like, well, why wouldn't you score the touchdown? I mean, that's very odd, but this is why you hire O'Connell, and probably just as importantly, why O'Connell brings a game philosophy coach with him who probably helps in such decisions, right?
Yes. What should we do? Should we score a touchdown or should we milk it? Milk it. Here's why.
Exactly. But I mean, this is what, Phil, we talked about this on the old show, probably from near the time that we started, which is why don't you have a game coach, a game philosophy guy by you? Mm-hmm. Because it never makes sense. I mean, these are $1 million decisions, right? And you're like, oh, I'm doing 10 things at once, but go ahead and score a touchdown. So yes, this is how it's supposed to work. Even if it had been flawed, if Joseph had missed, I still think the idea was exactly right. And that's the most important thing is when push comes to shove in a big game, are you going to freak out and do something that you shouldn't do, or are you going to make the smart choice? Yeah. And what I want is consistency and philosophy against, in that case, I just went with my gut. And O'Connell has very much said at times this year, I went with my gut. That's a time not to do that.
Also, the Vikings started that drive with 6 minutes, 12 seconds on the clock.
Yeah.
And they just matriculated.
I love that word.
They inched their way forward with some
like
runs
snail.
to Dalvin. It was like a 4-minute offense with 6 minutes to go, and it was executed almost to perfection. Now, if Washington hadn't committed the penalty, they would have had 2 minutes left to do whatever they needed to do. So a penalty helped them go from like a 6-minute milk the whole thing to like a 4-minute and then give the ball back. But think about how many times we ripped the Mike Zimmer teams for, hey, Kirk did his job, and then the defense on the other side would give up a game-winning touchdown to Jared Goff or whatever it is. Well, one way to prevent that from happening is to just be masterful at how you work the clock and play the chess game. So many coaches put in hours and hours of film study and preparation. They don't see their families. They don't sleep for 6 months. And it's like through all that work, they just ignore the chess match of game theory and clock management inside 4 minutes.
Yes.
You got to either have a guy that can tell you what to do like the Vikings do, and or have a guy like Bill Belichick who inherently knows what to do himself. I think the Vikings might have a coach that knows what to do with a right-hand man kind of reassuring him in those moments.
Which is exactly what you should have. And so there is no question that the penalty helped a lot, but let's keep in mind, too, the Vikings then made the smart move there. And for anyone who says, well, that penalty was lucky, guess what? You had an official earlier in that game take out your safety, okay? So, like, officiating was very much a part, unfortunately, of this game. But just because the penalty was called doesn't mean that the Vikings were going to do the right thing. I am a firm believer through 8 games, the majority of the time, this team has gotten breaks, there's no question about it, but it's what you do with them. So, like, you can screw it up. It's not like, well, once the penalty was called, the Commanders were done. No, actually, they were done because the Vikings then made the correct choice. So I think that for all we talk about, and there have definitely been some fortunate bounces and breaks, the Vikings are capitalizing. And when this is why it frustrated me last year when people would say, well, let's look at all the Vikings' close losses in 2021. And if you go back and turn this game this way and this game, but you didn't create your own breaks and you lost those games. This year, I give you credit. You're winning games. Just because things go your way does not mean you're destined to win. You then have to capitalize.
I'll step in here because that dovetails right off Phil's point. My statement is, I want to play for Kevin O'Connell. I want to be a guy with the jersey and in that locker room, I guess, for Kevin O'Connell, dude. Just watching the post-game speech, and yes, I know he handed out like 9 game balls and apparently is fined for each one that he comes out of his paycheck, I should say. Because he just gives out a bunch of game balls. Classic generation. Everyone's soft. Everyone gets a medal and gets a game ball.
Can't pay
participation trophy.
Even
DJ Wanham getting a game ball.
Side note, it was the adults who made that decision for my youth. That wasn't the youths making the decision for the adults. That's another can of
Yeah, that's
worms.
your generation's fault.
Yeah.
These
Yours,
kids are
not
entitled.
mine.
Yeah, because your generation gave
me stuff. You gave me stuff.
We suck as parents.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let me be very clear
These
to dump.
kids these days.
You know why?
Well, you're the one that bought me 5 video game consoles.
We were raised, by the most part, for tougher people or by them. So we've decided, we're just going to coddle our kids and we're going to be their best friend. As parents, I could go on and on. I have no kids, of course, but I could go on and on about how flawed. Like, if you go and watch the film, Declan, you are getting zero debate from me on this. You're right.
Yeah, not at all. But I think with just the buy-in factor here, the fact they're 7-1, they have their quarterback dancing basically on the airplane. It's just a fun group. Za'Darius Smith has come in 2 notches on the field, who's been a beast generating pressures and getting after the quarterback, but also setting a tone there that I think was missed without Everson Griffin from the last season and a half or so. It just seems like this team in general is fun to play for and fun to watch, obviously, as Vikings fans, but all the guys in there are playing for a head coach that is setting a tone and a culture. The organization made the call of, hey, we're not going to strip this down. We're going to keep the quarterback. We're going to keep the main chunks of this car intact with just maybe a little different synthetic oil instead of running regular oil. We're going to do a little different thing here and there in the car, and it's paid off for the Vikings.
It is. They obviously spotted something in those conversations, and now you can see, because remember at the time it was like, boy, the finalists appear to be Jim Harbaugh, established track record, and a guy that has, maybe it's a short shelf life thing, but a guy that has been to Super Bowl and whatever. And Kevin O'Connell, who's never done this before, pretty young. He was a coordinator, but it was under Sean McVay. And so how responsible was he for the actual molding of the clay? And boy, it would have been fun to go back to January and just be a fly on the wall in like the 10-hour meetings with KOC, because for him to have very little actual, like, he had the resume of any other coordinator that has popped up and gotten hired, where you go to a Super Bowl or whatever, and you're the next guy. But it's now obvious what they saw in January to say, you know what, let's run this thing back mostly and see what he can do with Kirk and see what he can do with this offense. So, and they haven't even peaked. That's the other thing. Like,
their offense is disappearing.
Still a grind every week, it feels like.
It's disappearing at times.
Yes.
Belief, man. Belief. Okay. My next statement, fire up Ode to Joy, please, or get prepared to fire it up, because I'm going to make this statement. Sunday's win in Washington was the most impressive of the season by your Minnesota Vikings.
Get the flag.
There it is. There it is. I got the flag. Thanks, guys. All right, there it is. Okay. 7 wins. 7 wins, all of them, or most of them, very close, not really comfortable wins, capitalizing on opportunities. Kirk now four fourth quarter game winning drives. But if you look at the adversity, the deficit, the style of game that the Vikings faced and played on Sunday, that is the type of win where I say, wow, that's impressive. One, it didn't come at home, and I'm not taking away a lot of points if it does, but hostile environment, Kirk being mocked by fans, you like that, we like that you're trailing, down by double digits early in the fourth quarter, an official who submarines you to cause a touchdown, because there's no question that is not a touchdown if Bynum doesn't get taken out by the back judge there. Like, if you go through all of those things and think that this team hung in there, hung around against a team that has a good defense, like, I mean, they, as we talked about on PD, there is a lot of pressure there. So I'm not saying that the Commanders are great, but they certainly are a formidable opponent, especially in their own stadium. And you come back and win that game from a coaching standpoint, from a quarterback standpoint, from a defensive standpoint. If you look at how that win went and the ingredients to get that win, I'm telling you right now, of the 7 wins, this to me was the most impressive.
Yeah, that was my hottest take from a Kirk standpoint, that he's played 73 games as a Viking in 4.5 years, including the 2 playoff games. This was my favorite. This was my favorite because it's.
Yep.
What about the games where he threw for 325 yards? We know what peak Kirk looks like when conditions are perfect and clean. He's one of the best pure passers in the NFL. But the reality is, and this is the butting of heads, I think, among a lot of Vikings fans over the years, is you need to create perfect conditions so that Kirk can play that way all the time. It's like, well, the average team is giving up 30%, 35% pressure rate. Pressure exists in the NFL. You're not going to be able to just sit back there behind a brick wall for 3 hours and throw darts all over the field. There's going to be games like yesterday on the road against a really good pass rush where they're getting after you. I believe PFF had it as a 46% pressure rate on 46% of passes. Cousins was pressured yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think so many fans throughout the years, well, I mean, what's he supposed to do? And blame the offensive line. Yeah, yes. Blame the offensive line. They need to be better. But that doesn't just end the game. Oh, well, what are they supposed to? Oh, there's safety help over the top. What are you supposed to do? Oh, the defense is getting pressure. You know what? Win the game anyways. Rise above it. That's what great quarterbacks do. It's what great teams do. They just find a way anyways to work their way through the mud and pull out a victory. And that's what I loved about it. If you look at his box score, you're like, okay. This could look like kind of a grind for old Kirky boy. Yeah, and it was. And he still stuck in there and, took a shot to the ribs, got knocked out of the game, and threw a drop in the bucket to Justin Jefferson.
Yes.
Comes back, finds TJ Hockenson a bunch of times on the final drive. Like, everything about it was perfectly imperfect for Kirk and the team yesterday.
Yes, it was almost what I would describe as the anti-Cousins type of win as a Viking. Because ordinarily, it's I threw for all these yards.
It's the pretty win.
Yeah.
Yep.
This year has been the first time that I don't feel like it is the Minnesota Cousinses. And by that, I mean previously it's always been, what did Kirk do? What were Kirk's stats? Okay, his stats were good, but they lost. You don't get a guy on an airplane doing a jig like Kirk did with those chains on if you threw for 400 yards and lost the game, right? You get that. You get what the YouTube audience is looking at here. If you maybe don't have a great game statistically, but you win the game, as Herm Edwards said.
Love it. You play to win the game. All right, this next statement is presented by our friends who create the Purple Positivity candle, Spiral Light, Judd. You got any Purple Positivity candles available?
Oh, we do, and guess what? They are flying off the shelf. You know why? Because Purple Positivity is a real thing. It's no coincidence that the first season, which is 2022, of the Purple Positivity candle has also been the year when Purple Positivity reigns. And if you want to join the growing family of people who are able to burn a Purple Positivity candle from our friends at Spiral Light, it's this easy, spirallightcandles.com, spirallightcandles.com. Also a great gift for the holidays, a great gift for birthdays. There are a wide variety of really cool with a great aroma candles, and you can find them all, spirallightcandles.com. Spirallightcandles.com is the place to find them. Enjoy the Purple Positivity candle against the Buffalo Bills on Sunday.
The Vikings actually could have used a little more frontline protection, and Washington, quite frankly, yesterday. Federated Insurance is all about risk management. They're all about providing a guiding hand to help you navigate your business through ups and downs and different things that happen, whether it's a recession or whether it's a booming period of the economy. Federated has seen it all over 100+ years. And they are here based in Owatonna, Minnesota, but they also work with companies outside the state to provide that guiding hand. Federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. Okay. My next statement. The Vikings do not win that game without TJ Hockenson, who barely knew the playbook. The guy showed up on like Wednesday, just happy to be on a 6-win team instead of a 1-win team. Now a 2-win team and a 7-win team, thanks to the Lions beating the Packers.
I like that.
And he wound up catching 9 passes, which is the second most receptions he's had in a game in his career. Straight off the plane from Detroit. Here's a playbook. Stay up all night and learn as much as you can. We'll just kind of tell you what to do in the huddle. Also, he played all but 6 snaps in this game. He missed 3 snaps on the opening drive. I think they were just trying to ease him in. Hey, we'll get you in there a few times. And I don't know if at the end of the first drive, he's like, I'm good. Just throw me out there. But a guy that came in, 72 hours before the game started, new system, new teammates, everything, new quarterback. And he was out there all day and caught the second most passes of his career. He caught 10 passes in a home game against Philadelphia, mostly in garbage time on Halloween last year, a 44-6 loss.
Wow.
Lions got smoked by Philadelphia. So what a performance. And it's only upside as a 25-year-old who's going to only learn more about the playbook and how to be effective. I think he's going to be effective in the red zone. So they don't win that game without TJ Hockenson.
I think you're exactly right. And plus, he caught 3 passes on the final drive.
Yeah, he was huge on the final drive.
So, yes, I do not think in this case that your statement is hyperbole. I really believe that they don't win that game because the question
Who
is
else catches those 9 passes?
Exactly. Or, those last 3. And he is an ideal Kirk target. He is the absolute quintessential type of bailout guy. But to go back to what we talked about, he can get you some yak. And the most frustrating thing about Rudolph, not at the end here, but towards it, was Kirk would throw him the ball, but he would immediately be tackled, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like there's no yak here, Kyle. We need yak from you because Kirk's not throwing the ball deep enough. Hockenson's the opposite. So, yeah, and congratulations, Vikings, Kwesi. Make a deadline trade like this, to me, also empowers the team a ton because it shows that you believe that they are probably a better team than you thought, and that, to me, is a great message to send.
Before we get to the next statement, we're going to make Judd play another game here. It's called Which NFL Coach Do You Think Just Got Canned?
Someone just got fired, Judd.
Someone just got canned.
I'm not looking at anything right now.
Who got their ass canned this morning? I'll give you 2 guesses because I think you're going to get it wrong.
Okay. I'm going to say that it's not Hackett. I'm going to say that it is. You know what? My first guess is Josh McDaniels.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Well, I mean, they lost again. They are a dumpster fire. He was, I believe,
2-6, yeah.
when they got drilled a week ago, he was sat down immediately after the game by Mark Davis, who owns that team. Okay, so it's not Josh McDaniels. Mm-hmm. Hold on.
And it's not Cliff Kingsbury. You're in the right conference. Cliff Kingsbury might get fired today, too, though.
Yeah.
How surprising. Give me a scale of surprise here.
Pretty,
10 being the most surprise, 1 being the least. I would say 6.5, 7?
Yeah, it's over a 5.
Yeah, over a 5.
I wasn't waking up this morning thinking, if you would have said, hey, who might get fired today? I would have said, well, Josh McDaniels maybe. Cliff Kingsbury, this name would not have popped into my head. But
so I'm in the right conference with Josh McDaniels?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Frank Reich.
There it is. Frank Reich. He gone. The Colts are 3-5, 3 straight losses. However, they're only 2 games out of the division. Yeah. With the Titans losing again last night.
Do you know who I think cost that man his job? He's not on the roster right now. Carson Wentz. He convinced them, you get me Carson Wentz. And they gave up, if I'm not mistaken, a first-round pick. Yeah. You get me Carson Wentz, and, I know.
It all happen.
Yeah. No, I know you hate him, Declan.
Yeah, I don't like him. He's not a good quarterback.
He's just sitting on the sidelines yesterday, too, just like chewing seeds with his little headset on.
He's a coach killer. He's a coach killer.
He's the reason why the Commanders lost that game yesterday, too. I know he was in the headset.
Yep.
I don't know what he was saying.
Talking to Heineke.
Saying some stupid ish.
Ron Rivera gone now because of that.
Coach killer, man. I think Phil and I are clear just on the same page with our statements. I'll say there's a new state of Hawk. It's not the state of hockey anymore. There is a state of Hawk. TJ Hockenson. Get the flag, Judd. Get the flag.
Someone's got to tell me when it's going to happen.
Yeah, sorry.
Hold on, I'm going to switch to my left arm. My right arm.
Okay, left arm's good. It's important to switch arms.
Oh, look
okay.
That's a nice way.
I think TJ Hockenson is a great addition to this Vikings offense. It helps give Kirk another great safety blanket, but a safety blanket that is an explosive playmaker who can get a lot of yak. It's not just Tyler Conklin, right? Like, it's not just hey, I'll get you 6, I'll fall down, I'm good. It's not old Kyle Rudolph. You acquired a prime tight end who you have under a pretty team-friendly deal, even going into the next year of his 5th-year option. It gives this Vikings offense a little bit more space. And if KJ Osborne isn't going to really take this next step, if Adam Thielen's coming down to earth a little bit, you needed someone else to get the pressure off of Justin Jefferson. And it's now the state of Hawk. TJ Hockenson. Go get your T-shirts, too, by the way. They're at the Score North shop, scorenorth.com/shop. Shameless self-plug. Get your State of Hawk shirts now and embrace this. Because there's a new slogan. It's the State of Hawk.
He's tracking this season for about and this is including the Lions stats, but 75 catches for about 975 yards and, I don't know, 6 or 7 touchdowns. It's pretty damn good. If you had basically a 1,000-yard tight end sitting on this team who catches 75 passes,
Yep.
yeah, I think we'll sign up for that.
But we still love Irv. That's what we're telling people. We still love Irv.
Yeah, Irv's gone. Sorry, Irv. Can't make the club in a tub.
My next statement is about a guy that came into the game when Cam Dantzler got hurt and played magnificently. Akayleb Evans now needs playing time. Akayleb Evans checked into that game, and at first you're like, okay, Booth's not in. Evans, who I believe was a 4th-round pick, and this is, by the way, why you can't judge drafts immediately. Like 8 games and no one's playing. Okay, calm down. Yeah. But he made, and I think this was referred to from a person that was at first round who came on Ventline, and it's perfect. He made a tackle on one play for, I think, a loss that looked like vintage Antoine Winfield. His tackling technique and form is outstanding. There was nothing I saw from that kid to say, you know what, he's got to be back on the bench. Now, I don't know if he can play inside, but the way that he plays, he looks like he has the attributes potentially of the slot corner. And this guy hasn't been terrible, but I'm not in love with Shannon Sullivan. So I just wonder if there's a way, once Dantzler is back, because he does not deserve to be benched, but once he comes back from his ankle problem that he suffered yesterday, if there is a way to find playing time for Akayleb, because I thought that kid showed a lot, and it didn't look too big, and he looked very comfortable doing things that I believe are difficult. Tackling for him, I mean, we've seen this from corners. We've seen it where it's really bad. This guy contributed to the point where I think you need to find him some playing time.
I love it. Yeah, these are good problems to have. I think we thought maybe Patrick Peterson will age out and you just kind of transition him to a part-time role. He's having a resurgent season.
Yep.
So it just looks like they've got, especially once everyone starts to come back healthy going into next year too, they just have some depth in the secondary. And now we're kind of seeing like, all right, to what extent are Harrison Smith and Patrick Peterson going to age out at some point? I mean, this year they're holding their own. So I definitely have one more for now. We got to get to Packer Vent Line at some point. But my next statement is the Vikings have the best pass rushing tandem in the NFL statistically. So it's not even an opinion here, folks. This is a fact. According to Pro Football Focus, Za'Darius Smith leads the NFL with 46 edge rushers. So I'm going to say pass rushing edge rusher tandems. Za'Darius Smith has 46 pressures this season. That leads the NFL. Don't look now, but tied for 11th and coming down the backstretch is now Danielle Hunter.
Yeah.
The only other pairing so there is a pairing, Matthew Judon for the Patriots and Dietrich Wise Jr. They have combined for one fewer pressure than Za'Darius Smith and Danielle Hunter. But statistically, with 79 combined pressures this season, Smith and Hunter are the best pass rushing edge rusher tandem. And Danielle Hunter is kind of just joining the party here in the last few weeks.
3 sacks now. So to piggyback off that too, we have not discussed this, but I think that we should be giving our guy Ed Danielle some credit here. Because up until that Dolphins game, this team was not getting sufficient pressure almost ever. Like Za'Darius was getting home at times, and they got some, but they weren't blitzing. And I think rightfully so, we're roundly criticized for, you've got Danielle Hunter and Smith, and this is all the pressure. Starting with that Dolphins game, since then, this team has made, I don't know if it's alterations or tweaks or what, but just look at those first, 4 games or so, juxtaposed against what we have seen the last 4 games. And it has been a big change. Like the pressure now looks like it should look. And all I can say about it is previously, before that, it didn't. It was like, what are you guys doing? Like, why would you not get more pressure? Somebody somewhere either got to Danielle or he watched enough film to say,
He might be capable at this point in his life of just coming to his own conclusions too.
That's what I'm saying. So Donachelle might have said to himself, you know what, I'm not doing a good enough job. But anyway, the point being is that change to me has been absolutely huge, because without it, I do not think that they are undefeated in these last, I think it's 4 games.
Well, and even if it's been a little bend but don't break and it doesn't always look pretty, the Vikings have the 12th best scoring defense in the NFL right now. That's a big jump up from where they were last year, if I'm not mistaken. So,
do you know what else
12th best.
do you know what else seems like it's been altered or changed, or guys, if nothing else, have just picked up their games? The linebackers, who looked like they were getting done over the middle on short passes.
Yeah.
I think Kendricks and Hicks play looks to me, again, eye test, not PFF test. It looks to me like it has really picked up, and I thought Hicks on Sunday was really damn good again.
You'll do the PFF test tomorrow. It'll be it's one of the segments that people love the most is Judd guessing the PFF grades to see if his grizzled eye test, a guy who's watched football week after week for decades,
These eyes have seen
if
a
his
lot.
eye test can match what the PFF scouts have dug
And if
through
they
the film
don't,
and seen.
Why is PFF wrong?
Exactly.
Like what's
And
going on at
PFF needs
PFF?
to check themselves.
Chris Collinsworth.
Yeah.
Now this guy.
Now here's a guy. Amazing. Okay, well, the Vikings winning